Get ready for hot takes and insight from local industry experts in real estate, business, and lifestyle. He used to play ball with the Padres. He played hockey for the Lobos. Now they're crushing it in the real estate game. Together, they'll showcase the best of the Duke City. This is All About YouABQ.
Welcome back. It's all about YouABQ. Now, the goal of the show is to highlight the best of our city's industry experts in real estate, culture, and lifestyle so that you walk away with some value and feeling inspired. Now, the way we like to do that is to answer the questions you may have or interview the guests you want to see. So we invite you to join the conversation. You can reach out on social media or join our email list to get some timely tips about our community and real estate market. Hey, I'm Skip Adams, owner of Sold by Skip Real Estate Brokerage here in town.
Grant Harvey, mortgage broker and head rancher of the Northwest Territories.
You've probably seen Grant's new shirt as the head coach of the University of New Mexico men's Lobo hockey team. Now he's absolutely crushing it in the mortgage space.
And you may have seen Skip on Nickelodeon's Hey Dude, but also star of HGTV's House Hunters and part of the top 2% producing real estate agents in the city.
Here's why you're going to want to stay tuned. We're joined by Joe LiRosi, owner of the Paul Mitchell The School, and he's going to talk about starting businesses in Albuquerque, kind of what makes us different from other cities here in the Southwest and all over the U.S.
Yeah, good entrepreneur story and a buddy of mine. So I think he's got some good injections to talk about Albuquerque, its growth, and where it's headed, and why he's a part of it.
And stay tuned to the end of the show. It's everybody's favorite Skip's tips. So Grant, dude, let's talk about the green shirt in the room.
Well, you know, ever since I got the part of Brokeback Mountain 2, as
broken in half,
I decided that I would make a run. So I have become a gardener, like I like to force on our audience here, talking about gardening every other second, like Pomeranians and rarely hockey, which is what you bought into the show for. Yeah. Long gone. Now, Mark, let's cue up a few of the Farmers and Ranchers of America commercials they had me do recently as a recent inductee.
So you want to be a farmer, huh? Do you have what it takes? You have the guts. Now I know Hollywood makes farming seem so glamorous, but I'll take you behind the scenes and see if you and farming are a fit. Now, why did I become a farmer? I guess you could say it was in my blood. I've been farming since 2020, if you can remember all that way back. And since then, since decades and decades of farming, I guess it's just ingrained. And let me show you around. Now, as you can see, not everyone has acres and acres to dedicate towards farming. I guess I just got lucky. Right here we have rhubarb that's been growing for 2 centuries. We got some tomato plants that are in their infancy. But little did you know this will feed millions of families. We've got some bell peppers. We've got flowers, we've got chilies, we've got jalapenos, we have ghost peppers, we have Carolina Reapers, we've got baby watermelon. The list goes on and on. You guys ever go after work, kind of peruse the grocery stores, look around the produce aisle lined with corn, tomatoes, vegetables of your liking. You ever ask yourself where that comes from? Newsflash, pal, it comes from me.
Oh, what else comes from you? Newsflash, pal.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just a brief overview of what that 20-minute infomercial is going to talk about. It was basically a recruiting video to get people like city slickers like you to actually go into farming. So I drank the Kool-Aid. Hopefully you can too.
Cucumber Kool-Aid?
Yeah. Armenian cucumbers. The people don't talk about them enough.
Yeah, because nobody likes Armenian cucumbers.
You've never had it, so that's means your palate's very limited.
No, farming. Let's talk about. There's some neighborhoods in town that, I mean, I would imagine closer to the river. Obviously, they have those estates where you can get irrigation off of the Rio Grande, do your own farming, like on real acres.
Yeah. What do you mean real acres? Like the ones we just saw?
Yeah, like your aluminum beds.
Yeah. So there's different parts of the city that allow livestock and farming and such, and I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards Bosque Farms in Los Lunas. But there are areas of the valley where you get ditch or irrigation access. And well, my understanding is because the Rio Grande, it has such fluctuating levels. Some people get to, you pull up the little doors and flood your fields, and sometimes you get 2 days, and sometimes you get 6, and so that's why I stopped growing alfalfa. Personally, if this was me,
if I was an alfalfa grower.
yeah. So that's what I did this weekend. My friend Chipper. Don't we have one more picture though, Mark, to put up? So follow-up visit. My buddy Chipper has agri-greenhouse, and I went and shopping for the flowers and the first place vegetable ribbons. And there's my plow dog Dasha, who I traded in for an ox. So that's my buddy Chipper. Fantastic place.
The agri greenhouses. No, we had them as a guest season 1. Man, they're old school.
Oh wow! Can you remember that far back?
Yeah.
Decades and decades ago.
Decades back in 2020.
Yeah. When did so? What did you do this weekend? Or
oh, babe, we moved into the new house. By the way, you and I don't get to hang out too much off camera, so it was great to have you over.
That was a loaded question. I know what he did. He had a 10 a.m. birthday party.
Yeah.
You know what I like about birthday parties for kids is they have no idea who you are, and then when they realize who you are, they go running face first into their beanbag to celebrate their birthday. So it was Birdie's birthday?
Birdie's birthday? No, it was Elle's birthday.
Oh,
the other one.
The other person. He had a jump house that adults couldn't go in, or that got flattened out. But we got to see Skip's new house. He did great. Oh, pump his tires. Great cabinetry, color pick out. The house is a good specimen. So
yeah,
good
thank
job.
you. No, it's been a fun journey so far. Now we get through the process of cleaning out the old house, which is what I've been doing for the past 3 days.
That's no good.
You're just like just scrubbing it and just being like
Molly maids.
Yeah, just fixing hinges that you should have fixed 10 years ago when you were living there, stuff like that. Anyways, but no, Albuquerque, man, it's God, what a interesting place. It's always funny to go online and find interesting, funny clips about just how do outsiders see Albuquerque, you know? And I think we showed a clip last week about how there was the police on horseback had to lasso a criminal.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Albuquerque, if you ever go outside of the city, you go onto the reservations or you go like up to the Jemez, and they always sell fry bread. And so I came across this clip. I thought it was hysterical. This is what outsiders think of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
But there's unhealthy eating everywhere. I was in Arizona and New Mexico, and there are people eating fried bread. There are stands that sell only fried bread. And I saw that, and I was like, I found my people. Fried bread! I eat unhealthy, but come on. I know a donut's fried bread, but at least we don't call it fried bread. I mean, at what point do you even feel comfortable eating something called fried bread? Have you ever eaten cake in the shower? A couple times. You're ready for fried bread. Ever eaten in your car so you don't have to share with your children? Every day. You're ready for fried bread.
That was hilarious, but I want him canceled.
Yeah, appropriating our bread.
I can't believe he took a shot. You know what's funny about Theo Vaughn did a segment on Albuquerque, and it's like everyone loves burning other people's cities. Like I could go off about Cleveland and any places in Ohio that should secede, and we should not have to deal with them. But every time someone goes and makes fun of Albuquerque, whatever, people go, oh my God, they don't know about this or that. And like it's just a joke. It's just a humor. Be glad that they brought
Do you
us
remember
up.
that? So comedian Chris D'Elia just went on a rant for like 2 weeks, just trashing Albuquerque, and it ended up on the news. And the newscasters were like all serious, like this comedian is really talking trash about our city. And it's like, you take a step back and look at what we got going on. Fried bread.
And not only that, but they're not historians. It's not like they're going to go in your kids' textbooks and like, God, can you believe that one time that he's a comedian for a reason?
Yeah, jokes on jokes.
Yeah. So what was there anything else you did this weekend? Besides moving to a house?
Yeah, besides
Petty,
uproot your life.
boring. Yeah.
No, but Albuquerque's on the growth, and we always say that Albuquerque operates about 5 years behind other cities like, in California, LA or San Diego. But Albuquerque is sending out a request for proposal for Rapunzel to start being the mayor here. Redevelopment of some commercial buildings into residential to help with our housing crisis. We don't have the housing crisis per se that they do in bigger cities, but we do have a lack of inventory. And so what other cities are doing are converting these large office buildings that went empty during COVID and turning them into residential building, and Albuquerque is no different. Request for proposals for commercial buildings, and they're going to subsidize it with up to $4 million to cover some of the shortages for developers.
So I feel like this is where, again, sometimes we lack big city ideas, and then now we're starting to inject them. But I think the mixed use property, for those of you who don't know what mixed use is, it was like having your commercial with residential. I think it makes sense for a lot of people to got a salon, got a boutique, got a flower store. Wouldn't it be cool to like live above it and kind of monitor everything and be amongst your business? I think that's what makes sense. And I think our show's big on changing out the old guard ideas and doing things because that's the way we've always done it into what about those people who made those laws or ideas are probably dead now? So do we get a say on how things ought to go? That's kind of the movement I think is important. And I think you and I have talked about how commercial buildings, how it can look kind of dreary and they're on their way out. There's nothing worse for a neighborhood than to be overrun with dilapidated buildings and unoccupied.
Oh, especially in our town, dude. You turn into the zombie fest. Like,
yeah, just
just bodies living in there.
Homeless aluminum fires.
No. That brings us into one of our next segments, Grant's Rant.
Yeah. Just our AM talk show or FM talk radio morning show has continued. So instead of a rant, maybe it'll be about things that I've always wondered. And this will be more of a waitress and cashier related segment. I've always wondered why when a waiter or waitress comes up to your table, why they get a new voice where they go, I'm just gonna reach for that. And it turns into this weird witch, like low talking, strenuous guy. I've always wondered why they say, hey, my name is Mark if you need anything. Well, how many names do you have? What's your name if we don't need anything? What else I would like to wonder is why they think the cashiers are fooling people when they go, hey, I'm just gonna flip this around. And it's gonna ask a few questions. Did it ask when I last fed my dog? Did it ask how many years my roof has? Did it say, did you pay your taxes? They know what questions about to answer. Like, do you want to give me a tip for collecting your money? In which case, then you feel bad about not doing it, so you figure out a way to put 50 cents instead of no tip. These are things I've always wondered. I've also wondered why restaurants are so stingy with the dinner rolls. Now, I've been to Red Lobster. I get it. Everyone wolfs down 9 of those rolls, but do the rolls come out of the waiter's pockets? These are just small things I've wondered about, so it's not really a rant, is it? But that will be all for today's Grant's Rants. Yeah, that's there's more horns per second.
We've all wondered about the shirt, man. Why are you
Well, sometimes you got to pony up and, lasso in yourself some responsibility. Like
you got to rein in that shirt a little bit.
Rain, yeah. You got to purple rain it down.
Here's where you're going to want to stay tuned. We're joined by Joe LiRosi, owner of Paul Mitchell, the school. So an entrepreneur living in a cool neighborhood. He's going to talk a little bit about that as well. But stay tuned. And then in the end of the show, it's time for Skip's Tips. This is YouABQ.
Not by me.
Welcome back to YouABQ. I'm Skip Adams, owner of Sold by Skip Real Estate Brokerage here in Albuquerque.
Grant Harvey of Pro Rancher.
Pro Ranch Mortgage. We're joined in studio by Joe LiRosi, owner of Paul Mitchell, the school. Joe, thanks for showing up today, man.
Absolutely.
You're looking sharp, Thanks for commenting on my flyaway.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping he would do, is kind of roast us and be like, oh, you guys could use some work. Why don't you?
Yeah, your set sucks.
Call this a rug? Call that a hair?
But
Call that a
I'm
rug?
willing to help.
That's the New Yorker in you. So talk a little bit about your backstory. I mean, you were born in New York. How in the heck did you end up in the desert of New Mexico?
It was. My parents brought us here in our teens. I think there was a big push back in the 70s, early 80s. They built a small town called Rio Rancho at the time. And
Still a small town.
Still a small town. It's grown pretty substantially. I think there was about 8,000 people that were living in there when I was there. Yeah. We all went to one high school. There's multiple now. But yeah, it was just sort of a New York thing. A lot of New Yorkers had kind of come over, and parents wanted to give it a try, and we kind of did. And some of our family kind of made the move as well, and then some of them have gone back, and some of them stayed.
Yeah. If this story
bit of
sounds
a
familiar,
combination.
you may have remembered his nephew on the show.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw any bits of it, but we basically talked about how Italians was really offensive and it should be Italians, and that his father-in-law would, not your father-in-law, your nephew's father-in-law would say Italians are ruffle his feathers. And then I said, well, you need to do something about it.
Right.
That's where we left off. And then he stormed off the show.
But so from Rio Rancho, you were here through high school and then decided to head back east and get some more culture. Talk about a little bit about there's many differences between Rio Rancho, New Mexico and New York.
Name one.
Infrastructure. But talk a little bit about some of the differences. What's charming about our city, our state that brought you back?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's obvious. There's a ton of differences between New York City, Manhattan, and Rio Rancho, New Mexico. So I won't touch that one. But I do think the best part of Albuquerque is that there's an opportunity for anyone to really kind of bring something from, let's say, Manhattan to Albuquerque, New Mexico, right? I think there's a lot of possibility. There's a lot of potential for growth, and I just feel like if you can come in and just give a little bit of effort, you can do substantially well in this town.
We are known as the land of mañana, and we always say that we operate 5 to 10 years behind the bigger cities, and things that happen in San Diego or Los Angeles, we always try and be on the forefront to try and bring some of those ideas here. And it sounds like you having some experience on the East Coast, like if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. So if you can bring those ideas here
That
to
should
the
be a
land
Sinatra song.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's a mindset, right? I think the people that come in from different states and different cities see the opportunity and kind of hustle and make things happen. I feel a little bit about some of the trends that have gone on within the city that have kind of stayed within the city. Those folks don't seem to understand the latitude of really kind of growing a city, right? Or collaborating and bringing things, that are new and different. And I think that's what makes people successful in this town, is that you need to just be a little different.
Yeah, so there's a trend, and if you guys watch the show, there's a pattern of people moved away and come back and injecting what they saw to be common business practice and employing new ideas and a new culture, which is usually based on customer service and work ethic.
And showing up on time.
Yeah, so that I think every time we have a success story, you have a person that goes, "Hey, I love the place, but we could use some new ideas and maybe change the culture." And I always talk about removing the old guard. Well, the old guard has kept us from progressing, and adapting the new ideas is how you replace the old guard and going, "Hey, it doesn't have to be like this anymore."
But I think it takes one, and then people will follow suit, regardless of where they're from. I think it takes one, create some competition, and then everybody kind of steps up and says, okay, I do have to make a change. I do have to put some effort into this, and I have to do things differently. I mean, we opened our space. Our first space was on Central, across from the University of New Mexico. There was 0 parking, not one parking spot for a school that potentially had a capacity for 120. And we were outrageously successful without providing all the things that people said that you needed to provide, because it was different. The building was different. It was old. It was a 1920 building. We made it cool inside. We called it Urban Academy. It was just edgy and fun and different, and people just flocked to it.
Let's talk about that business, because you had an idea through a conversation with a friend that hey, why don't we start a beauty school, essentially a salon school. And I think it's kind of just a random thing, but then you sit home and you think about it, you go, well, there's no competition, or let's bring some new ideas and revamp.
I think it's important to talk about the contrast. What were you involved with before? We talked before the show. You had your hand in something that would probably be on the opposite, the antithesis of what that was.
So I mean, it's twofold. So Dad was a barber, right? So I grew up in a barbershop in Manhattan when I was a kid, right? So it was there. It was sort of like in my blood. All my uncles from Italy, they were all barbers. My sister-in-law was a hairdresser, so to some degree at a distance, hair was in my blood. I went to school and I studied film and television and became a producer in New York in my 20s. And so, I was aggressive with what I wanted to do. And, once I got there, I realized that, New York is just a little bit bigger than I could experience at that time. And so I took my skills and I I adapted my education and converted that to a means of education. So using media for education. So web-based training, computer-based training, internet training, all of those types of things.
That's fascinating to take the hybrid of the two.
Correct. But then I was bored. I was working corporate America, and I needed some of that excitement that I missed from being a producer, right, in the hustle and the bustle of New York. And so the company I was working for was moving back to Boston, and they gave us this great severance package, and so I had a few months to kind of figure out my next steps. And at this point, I was in my 30s. And that's when I had a friend come to me and said, hey, I went to the school. It wasn't the best education. I know that you can do better, and the opportunity's there. And so we just started doing some research. And so I literally traveled around the entire country doing trainings with big brands in the hair business, just to see what they had to offer. And we eluded a franchise at that time, and we started our own brand. And we used the number one product company. We were the only school, the first school and the only school that they allowed to carry their products. And it was Bumble and Bumble at the time, which I still use and I still love. Big New York brand out of Soho, amazing training. And, we just sort of created this environment called Urban Academy. And it was just this hair and skin school that was completely different from what was available in town.
Did you have any, we always talk about the entrepreneurial spirit and what it takes to grow a business in Albuquerque. I mean, did you see any pros or cons of trying to do business in Albuquerque, get licensing, any red tape that, was just kind of like a pain in the ass, or antiquated systems? Or
so I think the people that I connected with were amazing, and I knew that things had to kind of like happen. A friend of mine, Anthony Johnson, who was the broker at the time, had the building. It was an old Office Depot, and they had closed their doors. They weren't doing really well on Central across from the university. That was the building that I wanted. People that I had spoken to said, it's not available. Office Depot's not going to let go of it. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. But when I called Anthony, he's like, that's my building. We can make that work. And so the Kelleher's owned the building, and they were just amazing to work with. And so they allowed us to transfer the lease, gave us a little bit of money, really kind of helped us out and kind of grow from the very beginning. And then, unfortunately, it was 2008 when everything crashed, and we went back to the Kelleher's, and they were willing to help us again. And so they were incredibly supportive.
Yeah.
And then, ironically, some of the people in the industry lived in New Mexico, like big brand people who write all of the curriculum for all the schools across the country lived in Ruidoso. Yes, weird. I get it.
Mecca.
I get it. Yeah,
everyone goes.
And so things just kind of fell into place. And I will say, the only hassle was because I was so much more progressive, and I wanted to move fast, and I wanted to move quick, and I wanted to do great things, and I wanted to build something different, that there was always a setback from, the state of New Mexico, licensing and regulations.
And I think some people are waiting to go first. So like when they see that lead, there might be people that go, hey, that's the way it's always gone. But like if you're going to get trained or need that kind of help, I think that's great that someone went first and did that, because I think some people would love to adhere to a system like that, but they don't have anyone going first, so you were a pioneer in that. I think it's also awesome that you chased a yes, because in this town we've faced so many, well, they've always said no. Right. Well, find me the yes guys, because I'm tired of the no guys. And I think there's you coming from an East Coast says that's not acceptable. Anyways, let me talk to a yes guy and found a way to get in that building.
Well,
and
just
everyone
stay
said,
there until they say yes.
I'm not going back to New York.
Yeah, you have to be realistic, and and when things make sense, they make sense. And if you feel like if things don't make sense, then you can't really pursue that. But if there's no harm, then there's no foul, and you want to pursue something, then go for it. There should be no. There should be a yes, and just like I said, I just stood there until I got it.
I love that. So, I want to talk about the logistics. So were you part of the training staff, or did you quarterback how the training ought to go?
So because of my master's degree in education, in adult education, I was able to just kind of foster and lay the foundation.
That's cool.
I'm not a hairdresser, so we hired instructors and hairdressers to kind of lead the education. But because I had, the background per se with my dad and my family, I understood it, so it wasn't uncommon for me to talk about a haircut or a shave or a manicure or a pedicure or things along those lines, or a facial. But I was able to lay down the foundation and make sure that it was being delivered correctly.
Yeah.
And to make sure that people got like the best education in New Mexico at that time. And I believe we still provide that education to them, because there are no other school owners that come with a master's degree in education. So there's no one that can really talk about
Can
that.
I ask you this question, and tell me if it's random or not? Is there a difference between a barber's license and a beautician's license when it comes to shaving? Is that
Yeah, so a beautician's very old school. So a beautician's more just a cosmetologist.
Cosmetologist.
Yeah, it's just slang for cosmetology. So there's licenses. There's a cosmetology license. There's a barber license. There's a hairdresser license, which I spearheaded at the Capitol and found, we passed it through legislation. There's a manicure license. There's an esthetician license that does just like facials and, skincare therapists. So there's difference. Your full cosmetology license allows you to do hair, skin, and nails. Barbering allows you to do shave and hair.
I always thought that was a funny one, because I'm trying to remember what it was. There was one company that was opened a barber shop, and they brought in a bunch of hairdressers to like come in and
Yep.
But the red tape was that they weren't allowed to use the razor because nobody was licensed
As a
a barber technically.
Yeah.
And so there was like
That's
a whole
good, actually. I don't want someone
but I
going,
never
hey,
knew that.
I want this guy to go through anyways and slice my face open.
So what most people will do is they will complete the cosmetology program, and then they will come back and do what's called the barber crossover. So it's just like 2-3 weeks, you get trained. You do have to go test and get an additional license, but it's a shorter span and you can get a combination of all of it.
You ever
most
tried
people will do
before?
that.
What, to
It's
do a straight razor?
freaking hard. You have to basically let the weight of it do it, and you do any force, you ruin the whole, right? I've tried before, and I go, okay, it's getting too much resistance, I'm about to lose my cheek. So, but they're heavy, and you're supposed to let the weight of it do the cutting, and it's a particular plane, and blah, blah, blah. So whoever can do that is impressive. That, I would hate to see the mistake specimen.
Well, yeah, it definitely. And so I one time ordered a hot shave. I'm like, you know what, this sounds relaxing. I like the guys in the movie, like, whatever it is, later with the towel.
Just putting your own
But then
robot?
I started to panic because I was at this barber shop and I could hear them whispering like, hey, does anybody can do a shave today? Hey, what does anybody? And I was like, wait a minute. And some lady came out like, I got it, and laid me down. And then it started out kind of cool, and then she had the blade at my throat and was just hitting me. I'm like, I don't like it. I was like, I just stopped. I'm like, I'll finish it home. This is not fun. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. Yeah.
So there's a full license for it.
Yeah.
So when you're a barber, you're licensed to do shaves.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
that
have to
makes
go to
sense.
a barber.
Correct.
That's why Skip doesn't get any more massages, because one went real bad.
Yeah, he had a razor.
With a lady boy.
Lady boy shaving. Hey, so when it comes to renewing licenses, because that's something in our industry, continuing ed, renewing
Right.
licensing
Yep.
is every 3 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
Well, how stringent is or how many years do you have to redo your license?
So we renew every year, but for us it's just we just file a piece of paper. Our instructors and our educators have to do CEUs,
Right.
submit the CEUs, and then get
Yeah.
licensed. So it's
Yeah.
similar to your field and what needs to happen. So
It's good, man.
How did you?
Yeah.
So how did you find the staff to administer the training that you saw fit? Because that had to have been some pieces that were fit and weren't a fit, and getting people to convey what you want with the right attitude.
Yeah, so the challenge for New Mexico is that you need to have a license to be an educator. So California, no license. Texas, no license. New Mexico, you need a license. So you need to go back to school for almost a year just to get a license to teach in school, to meet the requirements for licensing and regulations. So we're going to try to hold a bill next year to kind of get that abolished, because it's a new day and age, and it's completely unnecessary, because with our new brand, with Paul Mitchell, they have their own way of cutting, their own way of color, their own way of doing textures, their own way of doing styling, their own products, their own
patented
and so someone's going to school for a year for no reason, for whatsoever, because then they have to I have to retrain them all over again.
Okay.
But it's a challenge, and it's very difficult, only because if I'm a hairdresser, potentially I could make more money behind the chair than I am as an educator, right? Educators
Absolutely,
never really make
right.
a whole lot of money. So there needs to be a balance. So we like to hire part-time folks, so they can still be behind the chair and still kind of stay current on what's happening and all those other good things. But it's a challenge.
And I think sometimes making it a part-time helps keep that enthusiasm, because once you've regarded that as your 40-hour-a-week job or whatever full-time, it can kind of wane in excitement. But if you have this kind of two-step job where you go, hey, I get to educate some, because some people really like educating, and just because you have the know-how doesn't always make you a good educator.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that's.
But Paul Mitchell keeps it current. They have conferences, and they have new trainings, and they have workshops, and things are changing, and so the brand has over 110 schools around the country, and so they really they know what they're doing, right? And so we kind of stay in the forefront of everything.
Well, that's great that you took your own brand, grew it into something, and then were able to take over another brand here locally. And then the idea is obviously to expand into other cities and towns in New Mexico. So I think.
Right, you have aspirations. You can mention it. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. There's a couple of things in the works. We'll kind of see what happens.
But you dropping here first.
No, but you wanted to go to another town, right? With this.
Yeah. So we're looking at Las Cruces. Yeah. A lot of the other territories are already taken because I kind of got in late in the game with Paul Mitchell because they've already been around for almost 20 years. So most of the larger cities are completely taken. That have potential, and so but they wouldn't allow New Mexico for a very long time, only because John Paul, who is the Paul Mitchell brand, I don't know if you guys remember me as a beard, and he has this really pretty blonde wife, and that was at a baby in his hand.
Just always known the baby never grew up.
Yeah,
just always
right,
one.
It's the same
picture.
picture.
We gotta get another one. Yeah.
But so they wanted to. New Mexico was off limits because he was living in Santa Fe at the time, and so they weren't sure what they were going to do with the territory.
Oh, wow.
And so when they finally opened it up, and so we were able to kind of grab it.
Who knew how many big wigs were in here this whole time, hiding underneath the Pueblos and
Rio Doso.
Fry bread stands, like Jim Gaffigan said. That's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. The great thing about it is that he came into town for our grand opening, which was just a few months ago. And most people don't know he was the owner of Patron.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he sold Patron, I think, right before the pandemic. It was something ridiculous, like $500 billion or something like that.
Did he get? Was it a good time for it, or has it amassed even more? What do you know?
I mean, after COVID, it's hard to tell, where it landed.
Where everyone just became a professional drinker and needed double the Patron.
But that brand has been around since the '80s as well. So they have a fascinating story. They started creating a product, and they went around and with their product in the trunk of their car and just went from salon to salon in LA and just started slowly, creating the brand and. Started developing it. So we carry the original product, which is they're like number one. It's called like shampoo number one, and a generic brand back then in the '80s. Which now they have several different lines and different products.
Probably like a Chanel story, right?
Yeah, but their story's great. You know what I mean? And then in early 2000s they connected with a predominant school owner and said, let's do this and let's combine the brand with the school and let's kind of keep the brand alive. And he had a fascinating story. He put the brand of Paul Mitchell in a 350-year trust. So this brand's going nowhere anytime soon.
I like that. The combination of administering the know-how with the product is how you keep both of them perpetuating, right?
Yeah, and they just continuously grow. And the students get to use professional products, so they're not using stuff that you just buy like in an edit industry
stuff,
magazine.
Target over here at the clearance.
The Create Flyways.
That Create Flyways, yeah. If you didn't have them, watch this product that Skip has. You will now.
So that's that's also the benefit of the brand that we currently have now is that they use professional products in all of their educational environments. So whether they're doing facials, we're using Dermalogica for facials, whether they're doing makeup, whether they're doing hair. They're working with professional products, which going back, 20 years, because I've been doing this now for almost 20 years, there were no professional products in any of those schools. They were just using, gook and gum, whatever they could find to kind of like
shoe polish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you ever think that this would reemerge in your life?
No, not at all. I mean, I was strictly hardcore professional corporate America, and I just, would have never imagined where we've landed, but. I feel like we can consistently give back because we know the quality that we're providing.
Yeah.
We also have a laundry list of charity events that we do that we get involved in, things that we create, things we raise money for. We do cuts for the homeless. We do, cuts for domestic violence women. We close the school, close the windows. So there's a lot of things that we get to do to give back, which is awesome. So it's not just a job for me, it's really the ability to kind of give back to the community as well.
That's almost a component we don't require, but I like it when people talk about the philanthropies they do. And also, like, if you were able to do one for, like, Pomeranians in need, that would also make a large segment.
How often do you trim your palms? Are you supposed to trim them?
I didn't go to the Paul Mitchell School of cutting.
Paul Mitchell has an animal.
Don't joke around about that.
We have shampoo and conditioner for pets. Yeah.
I actually used that one. I didn't want to say it because I thought it may sound like pejorative, like I use that on my dog.
Yeah,
but like you should
dog.
see how I love my dog. Right. That's like even I don't buy that for myself, just for her.
Yeah, we're trying to start a veterinarian division of the school.
That would be awesome. If Skip and I ever get burnt out on real estate, I think we're going to have our second life as besides farming, professional farmer. We may just cut Pomeranian hair,
or just be hair.
Can you imagine an animal where you go, look at what I did? People are like, oh my God, you're a genius. Yeah,
an evil genius.
All the Pomeranians in this neighborhood use me. So,
Joe, 3 locations: Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, and then you got a salon on Paseo in Wyoming.
We do, yeah.
That's fantastic, man. It's great to hear your story and the way you've grown and just the exit strategy. It's great for entrepreneurs like us, just to know that you've built something that now you'll be able to sell and kind of move off into your next project.
Yeah, and this Kappa Sigma is just continuing to further New Mexico, one pledge at a time. Yeah.
We're pledged to have you back on the show at some point. Joe LiRosi, owner of Paul Mitchell, the school. Great story. Here's why you're going to want to stay tuned to the next segment. It's everybody's favorite, Skip's Tips.
Why can't we use that horn for your segment? It's mine only, turn it off now. Welcome back to Wayne's World. Wayne's World, party time. Excellent. Okay, just kidding. It's not Wayne's World.
Got it.
Yeah. Segment 3 for Skip's Tips, but thank you, Joe LiRosi, for coming on. Fascinating story about your entrepreneurship, but marriage saving time. Wah, 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 wah.
Wah, 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 wah. Welcome back to Skip's Tips. Anything that saves us time, makes us more money, or allows us to have more fun, whether that's in real estate or real life. Attention sellers, your home is never going to be more valuable or desirable to a buyer than it is the first week it hits the market. Let me explain. As a new listing, buyers are going to flock to it with fear of missing out. They're scared that somebody else is going to write an offer and snatch it right up. Also, on websites like Realtor.com or Zillow, as a new listing, they pump those listings up and they showcase them more and more. So, this is why pricing is so important. The longer your home sits on the market, the less interest, the less fear of missing out that buyers have, and the listing starts to fall through the cracks with the algorithm. So, if you want your home to sell quickly and for the most amount, be sure to have your pricing strategy in line. What's been your experience selling a home? Did it sell quickly or did you miss the mark? Share this with a friend and tell them Skip said so.
Attention sellers, attention addicts, attention workout addicts. Johnny Bravo is my co-host. Howdy.
Howdy, partner.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Brokeback Mountain 2.
Yeah. Boy, does my back ache.
Boy, is my back broken. I broke my back getting this shirt.
Spinal.
Every Wednesday night, Sunday morning here on the Education Channel around the world at the YouABQ Podcast on YouTube. We'll see you next time. This is all about you. ABQ.
Take this job and shove it.
You're watching YouABQ.